inherited more than an antique store. They inherited a curse. The chilling and frightening story of Uncle Lewis's hares on Friday the 13th. Friday nights at 11:30 on KVIA.
Something's happening together every day. Something's happening on KVIA. Something's happening. Something good is going on.
The name says it all. A humorous look at life through the eyes of America's best comics on the Comedy Club. Saturday nights at 10:45 on KVIA.
Something's happening together every day. Something's happening on KVIA.
On weekends, more people are turning to News 7 for complete coverage. And now, we're pleased to introduce a new member of the News 7 weekend team, Art Rescone.
Just because I'm a new face doesn't mean I'm new to the area. I was born in El Paso and spent many years here, and I'm glad to be back.
So on your days off, turn us on.
To stay in touch.
News 7 weekends at 5:30 and 10 p.m. The more you watch it, the more you'll know.
Make a change from the ordinary. Watch the extraordinary tales from the dark side. Nightmare legends and creatures from afar. Twists of fate and mysteries bizarre. Creepy, crawly, chilling delight. Things that go bump in the night. Turn to our tales of scary fun. After all, there's a little monster in everyone.
Friday nights at 12:30 on KVIA-TV.
Something's happening. Something good is going on.
Follow the voyages and the lives of the crew of the new Starship Enterprise in the 24th century. Star Trek, The Next Generation. Saturdays at 6 on KVIA.
Something's happening together every day. Something's happening on KVIA. Something's happening. Something good is going on.
They're surrounded by wealth, glamour, and an eccentric millionaire. They're the dappiest group of domestics ever gathered in one mansion. Find them at Marblehead Manor. Saturdays at 5 on KVIA.
Something's happening together every day. Something's happening on KVIA.
Hi, I'm Mike Farrell, and this is my friend Jason. You know, there are a lot of things to care about in life, and sometimes the little things are forgotten. Things like a little respect for the animals with whom we share our world. Things we do have an effect on Jason and his friends. For 10 tips on how to be more caring toward animals, write People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. PETA, Washington, D.C. 20015. We thank you.
Right together. This is KVIA-TV, Channel 7, El Paso.
You're all alone. The challenge is to select an office communication system that will carry your company into the next century and beyond. It must be infinitely expandable, expertly maintained, absolutely cost-effective, and reliable as the sunrise. The simple solution: go straight to the source and plug into the future. Plexar. From Southwestern Bell Telephone, the one to call on.
This holiday season at Shamaley Ford, get Ford quality, a factory rebate up to $600, and a $400 gift certificate from Dillard's when you buy any 87 or 88 Shamaley Escort, Taurus, Ranger, Bronco 2, F-Series pickup, or Thunderbird. That's right, a $400 Dillard's gift certificate from Shamaley, on top of Ford factory rebates up to $600. Happy holidays from Shamaley Ford, I-10 at Lee Trevino. Closed Saturday, open Sunday.
Something's happening. Something good is going on.
Follow the voyages and the lives of the crew of the new Starship Enterprise in the 24th century. Star Trek, The Next Generation. Saturdays at 6 on KVIA.
Something's happening together every day. Something's happening on KVIA.
Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. Tomorrow at 12:30 on 7 Together.
ABC News, World News, Saturday. Here's Barry Seraphin.
Good evening. With the ink barely dry on the nuclear arms agreement signed this week by President Reagan and Soviet leader Gorbachev, attention is already shifting to the Senate, which still has to ratify the treaty. And while Senate critics and supporters gear up to do battle over attaching conditions to the agreement, Gorbachev's reform policies are being tested in Moscow. We have two reports, beginning with Lark McCarthy here in Washington.
The treaty signed by the two leaders eliminating medium-range nuclear missiles is now given a good chance of getting through the Senate. Still, opponents are planning a vigorous battle to link this treaty to other issues, such as Soviet involvement in Afghanistan, Nicaragua, and more.
There should be an amendment linking the human rights issue, an amendment linking our conventional forces and the Soviets' conventional forces in Europe, where they're allowed to keep the trump card.
But supporters say one treaty can't solve every problem, and they're going to fight any killer amendments.
Our goal, those of us who support the treaty, is to find ways to express those concerns without sinking the treaty in the process.
Campaigning in Iowa today, Vice President George Bush took advantage of the summit momentum and called for support for his boss.
In my view, the president, after years of hard work and hanging tough, is entitled to the vigorous support of the American people and of his own party in the United States Senate.
In his weekly radio address, President Reagan was once again talking tough about Star Wars.
Our bottom line on SDI is simple. We will research it, we will test it, and when it's ready, we will deploy it.
The president was apparently trying to make it clear there was no Star Wars deal to keep the summit on track. Administration officials say the two leaders have agreed not to let differences on Star Wars stand in the way of progress on long-range missiles. The president didn't get much progress on human rights, but today he had another challenge.
Nothing would convince us of the sincerity of Glasnost so much as seeing progress in emigration, release of political prisoners, and allowing his people their most basic right to worship their Maker in peace, free of fear.
The human rights issue will be a focal point of the Senate debate, but it's unlikely the Senate will say no to eliminating medium-range nuclear weapons. Lark McCarthy, ABC News, the White House.
This is Rick Inderfirth in Moscow. Across from an abandoned 16th century church in a high-rise apartment building on the outskirts of Moscow, the lack of religious freedom in the Soviet Union was a topic of conversation today and of prayer. This was but one of several meetings taking place this weekend in Moscow, all organized to coincide with this year's UN International Human Rights Day. Participants from at least 7 nations, including the United States, have been allowed to come here to discuss not only human rights, but social and economic issues, and at this seminar early this evening, the question of trust and disarmament.
There hasn't yet been a case where an independent group met at such a seminar. We wanted to set an example, an independent movement.
Reflecting the new policy of Glasnost, Soviet authorities